start with the obvious question, other than like, hey, look at all of my cool shit. Yeah, that's kind of what it was, right? I mean, why do a book? Why put this out? You're not, I've known you for a while, you don't put yourself out there very often.
Yeah, you know, I just thought that it was a good time for me to actually get my collection together and just look at it and basically decide what I wanted to do with it. Because I've been living with this collection for a long time now, and there's only been so many people who've actually seen it. I mean, only close friends and family members. But you know, it started to get bigger and bigger and better and better. Well, at least to me, better and better. And I thought, well, now's the time for me to share it with the world, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. And I hope you guys like the book as much as I do. I mean, I've lived with this stuff for a long time, and you know, I'm just done with just keeping it to myself. And so, like I said, I just want to share it with everyone else who's into this stuff and appreciates horror movies and whatnot. And you know, this is my gift to all you guys who are just into horror movies, and, you know, and are monster kids, and so, just like myself.
So, there's that pivotal point in your life, or that one instance that made you, like, obviously pick a guitar up. What happened here? What happened with all this stuff? What made this happen?
Well, I acquired a few pieces that I just thought, oh my God, I can't believe that I actually have this now in my collection. And then I acquired a few more pieces, very rare toys. And then I acquired a few more pieces, and my collection just like went next level. And I really felt that that my collection was just too good for just myself to enjoy. And so I'd been planning on doing a book for like the last 10 years, but I am such a procrastinator that that, you know, every time I mentioned it, all my friends were saying, yeah, sure you're gonna do it, Kirk, sure you're gonna do it. But then...
It was just me and Stefan who said that.
Yeah, and some other guy who's in this room now too, that guy with the video camera. Yeah, I mean, once I acquired these items, I just felt, well, now's the time to make a book. I mean, now it's interesting enough for myself to make a book. I'm sure if it's interesting enough for myself, it would be interesting enough for other people who are like-minded individuals.
I think we proved that, right? You guys are interested as well. Yeah. But was there a certain movie, a certain character, where did the love come from? What birthed this? What happened?
Well, I've been into horror movies ever since I was a wee little lad. I saw my first horror movie when I was 5 years old, Day of the Triffids. And, you know, it's just something that just never went away. I mean, I've always had a fascination with this stuff, and even when I went headfirst into music and learning how to play guitar and playing in bands, I always had that fascination bubbling in the back burners of my mind, and I still actively watched horror movies all the time. And once I actually had an opportunity to start collecting stuff again, I just embraced it fully and just have not stopped yet.
So that means Too Much Horror Business, the sequel?
The sequel will be Too Much Horror Business, Volume 2.
Way too much horror business. Yeah. Is there any like holy grail in this book that's like your favorite? Like, look on page 64. Is there something in there that's like, I have to, like when you first started doing this book, you're like, I have to share this with everybody because it's just too cool for me to keep in? I know all of it is, but is there one particular thing or group of things?
Well, there were two items that actually turned out to be a pretty major catalyst in my decision to make the book. And one of them is this outfit that Boris Karloff wore in that movie, The Black Cat from 1934. I was thumbing through an auction catalog one day, and I actually saw it in the corner of the page, and I was so blown away that that piece actually survived 80-odd years or so, and it was up for sale. And so I jumped at the opportunity to get it, and not long after that, I got an outfit that Bela Lugosi wore in that movie White Zombie from 1932. And I thought, wow, I mean, I have both these items, and these are like some serious collectibles, and they augmented my collection so much that I just thought, well, now's the time. And you know, I'm aware of the fact that now, you know, collecting comic books, toys, whatnot is very trendy. You know, there's a hipster element to it. But you know, for me, it was never about being hip or being cool. I mean, it was always driven by having a real love and a real passion for this stuff. And it was very important to me when I made this book that came across, you know. I also wanted it to be very personable. I didn't want it to be like some scholarly tome or, you know, some reference book, though people will probably use it as a reference, and that's fine. But it really meant a lot to me that you know, part of my personality came through in the book and through this stuff, because this stuff just lives in me 24 hours a day. And so that was really important.
You know, as we're here at Barnes Noble, they have partnership with a place, you know, a thing called Nook, which is, you know, there isn't an e-reader for this book.
No.
And that's interesting to me that it's actually not because they didn't want to make one. You don't want it.
No, you know, there will not be any e-book versions of my book, only because I feel that looking through this book is such an experience, you know, and you really need to be able to like look at the images on the page and turn the page. And the way we designed the whole book, we designed it so that it would flow naturally from cover to cover. And you know, books are great. I mean, and I'm a big book fan. I still buy lots of books. So I do have notes, and I buy e-books too. But you know, it was really important for me that the book be a tactile sort of experience that you can feel with the five senses and see with your own eyes rather than viewing it through a screen. And you know, it was also really important for me to be able to look at the book in the format that it's in. I mean, a lot of times when you read e-books, they're like on a tiny screen like this, depending on what you're reading it on or whatever. But you know, the size of this book, which is like 12 by 10 or whatever it is, really gave the posters and actually all the images a lot of visual breathing space. And I believe that you can't really get that when it's on an e-book. So I mean, it's totally old school. Completely old school.
And you can tell by looking at it, I mean, you and all the great people at Abrams Publishing, everybody, you didn't cut corners. You didn't like make a little pamphlet or a little like, here's a part of it, I'm going to put out parts 2 and 3 later. You gave all you had.
Yeah,
you gave it all.
I put my heart and soul into this. I mean, I thought that I could knock it out in like 3 or 4 months, and I was wrong. It actually took me 3 years.
He thinks that about everything. It's over clear. I just want to let you know that.
I put as much effort into it and as much time as I would, you know, like a Metallica album or something. And I poured over every single letter, every layout, every image, just everything to make sure that it was the best that it could possibly be. And you know, I'm really satisfied with the way it came out. And you know, I should be satisfied because I've worked on it like literally every single day of those last 6 months. And I have to say, I made my deadline with 12 hours to spare.
Steph, is that true? I just need to get it back up. Is that true?
Well, he'll say it was the deadline.
A year ago.
The deadline a year ago. It's actually the third deadline because it took so long. There was the first deadline, I didn't make that one. Then there was the second deadline, and of course I did not make that one. And so then there's the third deadline, and I had to make that one, and I made it with 12 hours to spare. Those are a great 12 hours.
I want to get to all of you. I want to try to involve some of you in this. I want to make sure we get to when you're here for a signing. I want to make sure we get to signing all of your books. We don't want to leave any of you out in the street without it. So I want to do a little bit of a Phil Donahue and take some questions from people out here. Ooh, I'm really impartial to people in Metallica fan club shirts, though. So anybody got a question for Mr. Hammett?
Hey Kirk, how you doing?
All right,
Fan for 22 years, brother.
Right on, bro.
I was curious, what drew you to the horror genre as you were a kid?
You know, I just gravitated to it naturally. I mean, you know, I've always had this feeling inside of me it's like this weird like outside feeling. You know, I've always felt like a little bit of an outcast, and you know, watching horror movies and watching the monsters or the villains or the mad doctors. You know, basically the disenfranchised characters in all these movies. Those were the characters I related to. I was never the heroes, or you know, even when I watch something like Star Wars, I relate more to Darth Vader than I do to Luke Skywalker. You know, but it was that feeling of being an outsider in myself that made me relate to the outsider sort of faction that happens in a lot of these movies, and yeah, it's just one of those things. When I watch monster movies or horror movies or whatever, it's very, very comforting for me. I know that sounds weird, but it just is.
It's hard to say no to a man in a Misfit shirt, I'll tell you that.
Hey, Kirk, how are you?
All right, man.
Out of everything you have in the book, as great as it all is there one thing that still eludes you in your collection?
Yeah, you know, I've been looking for this one movie poster for a while, and it's from a movie called Murders in the Rue Morgue from 1932 that starred Bela Lugosi. And it's a beautiful movie poster. There's only one known to exist. It's down in LA in a collection, and that collection is not going anywhere. So, you know, I've been putting my feelers out there for like the last 10, 12, 15 years to try and find one, and I just can't find it anywhere. So if any one of you guys happen to have one in your back pocket,
I'll search everybody on the way out.
Yeah, let's talk later.
Awesome Metallica fan club shirt right over here.
Hey, Kirk.
Right.
Is there anything that you have in your collection that inspired you to write something for Metallica?
Well, all this stuff is very inspiring to me. I mean, for years and years and years now, I've just sat in my movie poster room and just all I have in my movie poster room are movie posters and like a couch, and a lot of times I'll sit there with a guitar and amp and just riff out and look at this stuff, and you know, this stuff is, like I said, is very comforting to me and very inspiring. I guess you could say it's a muse for me, but I spend a lot of time in there just riffing away and staring at all these beautiful posters, and it puts me in a spot where I can kind of clear my mind. It's crazy.
I'm the guy here who probably cannot even see you because of this column.
We got the visual.
Hi. I know obviously you like the classics and like to reminisce over like the originals, but do you try to like keep up with upcoming horror movies?
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You like
absolutely, yeah.
Really like
you know, a few movies that I've seen recently that I really like are Troll Hunter. I don't know if you know that one. Great movie from Sweden or Norway or whatever. Norway, yeah.
Oh, so you
and another movie that came out last year called Insidious, which is fantastic.
That's just terrifying.
Yeah, that's. I mean, when I watched that, I had goosebumps pretty much the whole time. I was on edge. And there's been like a few other really great movies that I can't think of right now, but yeah, I mean, there's these days the horror movie genre is strong, and there's a lot of great movies that are coming out, a lot of great products. I love Walking Dead. You know, I think that's great. I love True Blood. You know, I think those are great TV shows. And so yeah, I'm very psyched on where the genre is going right now.
It's hard to pass up a fan club shirt.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to say it's an honor. All right.
Likewise.
Is there any particular remake that you think is better than a classic, such as like The Thing or anything from that nature?
You know, I tend not to judge remakes by the originals or vice versa. I mean, a lot of times when I see a remake, I try to separate it from the original, because I mean they're just both different visions, and a lot of times, you know, back then, I mean, The Thing is a good example. Back then in 1952 or whatever, the movie technology was not as developed, so they had to rely on things like creating atmosphere and creating suspense, and you know, I totally appreciate that. But then when you look at like John Carpenter's thing that came out in the 80s, I love that as well. But you know, I tend to view them as two different movies. I mean, much like the way I tend to view The Shining, the book, as a completely different story than Stanley Kubrick's Shining, and they're two different animals to me.
Got time for just a couple more here, so I want to make sure we get to all your. I want to get him. You're pointing at him, and I'm going to get over there and do it.
Hey, Kurt.
Hey, man.
What's your favorite slasher horror film?
When it, you know, or when it comes to slasher films, I'm not too big on them because, you know, graphic violence just for its own sake, I think is not as imaginative. I'm sure there are people who disagree with me, but when it comes to that genre, I like the movies that kind of opened up that whole genre, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, like the first 2 or 3, and that's where I tend to go when it comes to slasher films.
Pick another one. You pick somebody. I'll grab him.
How about that guy right there? Yeah.
All right. Donnie, you on you right here. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, you're more like Oprah.
I'll take that as a compliment, actually. You know? Oh, yeah, whatever.
Tell us what your book of the month is. Of course.
Hi, Kirk. My question to you is, with your fascination with art, has it influenced your guitar playing in any type of way? For example, how you see in for the thing that should not be, how has an eerie vibe to it?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, this stuff is really, really inspiring to me, and like, when I need to tap into something like that, I mean, it's very easy for me to tap into that because I've been immersed in it, and it's a part of my own personal culture. And so, I mean, I have it in me because I've lived it. I've lived with this stuff for so long, and so it's an easy well for me to draw on. Like
Come on. This guy's been so patient. He's got a DRI hat on.
I like DRI.
Hi, Kirk. How's it going?
All right.
One further question. I need to know which movie you like, Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th? I mean, I collect Friday the 13th. I collect Sideshow exclusive, little figures of Jason Voorhees, but I need to know who you think is better.
You know, I'm a big fan of the first 2 or 3 Nightmare on Elm Street films. I mean, when they came out back in the early 80s, there was really nothing like it, and I thought that it was just an amazing film, an amazing story, and come on, Freddy Krueger. I mean, there has not been a character like Freddy Krueger to ever come out before him, and I think he was just a very original concept. I mean, in itself, and you know, the concept behind Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, is just super cool. And like I said, like there hasn't really been a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street that's preceded it. I'm a Freddy guy, yeah. I think Freddy could take Jason.
It's gonna be a long story short, Freddy.
Jason's cool.
So guys, a couple more things. We do have a website started for all of this stuff as well. It's all from Kirk-Hammett.com, and we have KBHtoys.com. It has the book and more, and we'll have more information on it as well. If you guys, any of you are travelers and are in the San Francisco Bay Area on November 1st, Day of the Dead, we're having a release party for this book at a place called Public Works. You can get online and find information about that on our website. So if you're out there, we're going to do something actually nothing like this whatsoever. It's actually a lot darker with alcohol, and it's a lot more fun. But
and a couple bands and some zombies, some burlesque dancers. There's going to be we're hoping that people will come in costume. There's going to be a costume contest. You know.
Freaking Death Angel.
Yeah.
So we've traveled around quite a bit, and we've broke a lot of rules over the years. There's nothing like breaking a few more while we're here tonight at Barnes & Noble. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put the table up here and let you guys get started getting your books signed. You've probably been to other book signings before where lots of things aren't cool. We're actually cool with it. So you can get 2 copies of your book signed. If you have Kill 'Em All or something on, you know, on vinyl, and you want to get it signed, just slap it on the table. We can break Barnes & Noble's rules over here, I believe, right?
I think it'll be all right.
I hope they'll still have us back after I do that. Is that okay, sir?
Just as long as they don't call the cops, I'm fine.
Yeah, don't call the cops on us. So what I want to do is I want to make sure we get to everybody, and I want to make sure everybody has a chance to tell him how fucking great his book is and all that stuff. So I want to start this row by row. This gentleman, an awesome Tony Swindle hothead hat back from the 1990s, he's actually our first guest. We'll go with this.